All right, everyone. Well, welcome back. And we are very honored to be joined this morning by Jason Anik, the host of the Remember the Show podcast and twin brother of John Anik. So, Jason, look, thank you very much for joining us today. Getting straight into it, so focusing on UFC 279, there's obviously been some massive shakeups in the last few hours alone, with Khamzat Chimaev missing weight by 8 pounds, and now potential rumors of opponent changes with Tony versus Nate and Khamzat versus Holland. Can you give your thoughts on Khamzat missing weight and whether you'd like to see any of the fights on the card change because of such a massive weight miss?
Well, first of all, thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate it. Great to meet both of you. So I have to start by just asking, what time is it where you are at right now?
About 7 in the morning.
Okay, so everything that happened during the day today, right? So I worked a regular job. It's 5 o'clock in the evening, my time, right? Yeah. So all the things that were happening today, I mean, you guys were sleeping. So the madness you guys must have just woken up to. I didn't know if you guys were going to even know what was happening.
It's like that most days.
Yeah.
I hear you. So you guys must have had a crazy reaction upon finding all this out and trying to get caught up. Anyway, So to answer your question, my reaction to Khamzat missing weight, very disappointed, shocked. As you said, I host a show with Belal Muhammad, and he pushed out a tweet about, getting on a plane and fighting someone at 185 out there. And I just can't, I have all the respect in the world for the fighter. So I'm sure there's a good reason with what happened. It's a lot of weight to miss by. It's fascinating what they must be trying to do. And so the Leech, they offered to fight. I mean, I'm trying to keep track of all D-Rod and the Leech have been offered. So you have to think they've been offered some cash to make whatever type of adjustments happening there. Certainly, if we get Nate Diaz, Tony Ferguson out of this,
that's a fight, and it should have been done
and obviously, I'm with you. And in terms of Khamzat and Holland, obviously the fireworks last night. But if the two of them end up facing, frankly, in my opinion, with all the respect to Diaz, the Chimaev-Diaz fight is more of an entertainment fight than necessarily moving anything in the welterweight division. And I'm certainly sensitive to that, being well connected to Belal, who's desperately seeking a title shot. So to me, we're sort of talking about an entertainment card to begin with. You can be sure my brother John is sweating whatever he's recording now, and whatever, I can't get him to even respond to me right now. So I'm sure he's in it.
Yeah, 100%. Jason, look, I want to switch gears a little bit. Speaking of John, I did want to know, growing up, with him being such a prominent figure in the MMA world and you doing your thing with Belal, how did sort of MMA come into your lives, if you will, and how did that passion and sort of love grow for the sport?
It's a great question. Growing up in Boston, Massachusetts, and New England, the professional sports teams with football, basketball, baseball, and hockey are really all you need. And we spent so much time following those sports, and we're certainly focused there. We played all those sports, save hockey. So we didn't train growing up. We didn't train mixed martial arts. You can be sure we watched the UFC, we watched boxing, but with John, he worked for a local Boston sports radio show, and through that had an opportunity to do the Mouthpiece boxing show. And that was sort of his foot in the door, and he, went to a lot of championship fights, and so really started in boxing. And the MMA stuff sort of crept in for him when he was at ESPN. He had a little bit of boxing background, the MMA Live, and it sort of snowballed from there. But I would be lying to you guys if I told you that we grew up diehard mixed martial arts fans. What I will say is that mixed martial arts has taken over to the point where, for me, honestly, it's the National Football League, the National Basketball Association, but the UFC and mixed martial arts is right behind it. And that's saying a lot for me. So John is obviously buried in it. The professional sports in the US have taken a little bit of a backseat for John, given what he does.
For sure. So, Jason, you are one half of the Remember the Show podcast, and you've kind of touched on that relationship with Belal. Can you kind of talk us through how that relationship first came about and how you would eventually end up running a podcast together?
It's just fascinating for me to be answering questions rather than asking them. So I love it. I got questions for you guys. You could be sure. So Belal, John had this idea for sort of Remember the Show. That was sort of that was how the original sort of talk about it was just that name of remember the show. And I think Belal was very active, sort of doing a game show on his phone, and he was always very active on social media. John really liked him when he had met him, and just sort of threw it around. I had a business that I had sold and was doing transitioning, and he said, I think you should, start hosting this show, getting your chops sort of in, and Belal's the guy to do it with. So Belal and I started doing the show 2 years ago. I have yet to meet him face to face. So I've known him like this. I know just virtually for a number of reasons. I had COVID one time. We're supposed to meet, but it's amazing. And you guys, I'm sure, can attest to this. You can really build relationships with people like this. And so I have grown to the point where I'm a New England Patriots fan, Boston Celtics fan, and then it's Belal Muhammad. I mean, I'm focused on October 22nd. I said to him last night on our show, it's 43 more sleeps. So to me, that's watching him fight. Dominic Cruz is also a friend of mine. Watching him fight gets me pretty nervous. But it's a real special relationship with Belal. I hope we'll continue to do the show, for a while and get, if he wasn't fighting in Abu Dhabi, I'd be traveling as the next fight. I'm trying to go to Abu Dhabi. I don't know if I got $3,000 to get there. But 100%. I love Belal.
Yeah, 100%. Look, Jace, being a fan of the sport for, a considerable amount of time now, for me, there's always those fights that stand out and moments in time where you always remember. As a fan, as well as someone who's talking, has a podcast with Belal and all that. Is there a single fight that sort of stands out in your mind as a fight that maybe is your greatest fight of all time?
It's a great question. Being in the building when McGregor fought Khabib and Khabib hopping over the fence, that moment and the surreal nature of that, being in that building, was a pretty special moment. As an MMA fan, when I go to a lot of these events, I don't have a huge rooting interest a lot of the time. I've been focused on the broadcasting for a long time in my life, where I would watch John and just rip him apart and give him feedback all the time. So frankly, for me, when I go to the events, especially if I'm not sort of sitting right behind him, I'm sort of missing it. It's a little bit of a missing piece for me. But what I will say about attending events, I love going into Apex. For me, it's all about when I'm able to sit sort of right behind John. Sometimes I'll go and I'll be in the stands, but certain spots, like when I was in Jacksonville for Chimaev Burns, that was absolutely bananas. And being sort of right there. So they give me a headset when I sit right behind him, right? So they let me hear everything he hears in his head. So I'm listening to what John hears, but they don't let me hear what John says. So if he's talking shit, excuse my language, if he's talking back to someone, okay. So if he's talking back to someone, which I'm sure he can get testy from time to time, they don't let me hear that. So at one point, he's got these flashcards on the pay-per-view open, and the flashcards got, mixed up at some point on one of these cards. So I hear them all like, oh no, where are the cards? Where are the cards? And it's sort of a bad situation. It was clearly someone who was at fault saying sorry. So I hear everybody except John, and I'm just like, I can't imagine what he must be saying. But yeah, so to answer your question, it had to be that Khabib fight, but I'm a recency bias, and when I'm there in Jacksonville, that Burns Chimaev was, I don't have the words.
Yeah, it was a crazy fight. So circling back to UFC 279 this weekend, obviously a lot of the sort of stuff that's gone on now with the main card is going to take the spotlight, but we've got some real good sleeper fights on this card, such as Johnny Walker, Ion Cutelaba, and Hakeem Dawodu and Julian Erosa. Do you think a better job could be done to promote the fights that aren't the main and co-main event on the card? Because oftentimes I feel a lot of the sort of sleeper fights on this card are lost because of the main event and the co-main event.
What a great question. I couldn't agree more. And becoming more of a mixed martial arts fan, you can be sure I'm watching all the prelims. I'm watching all the fights. And sometimes these cards, and frankly, some of these cards that John hasn't called have been bananas with all knockouts here or there. But the level of mixed martial arts, the roster is so deep in the UFC, where you have studs that are maybe the 20th best guy in their division. It's bananas, but I couldn't agree with you more. And it's interesting. I don't know what the best way to promote those. What I will say is I do think the UFC is getting a lot of eyeballs in a lot of places a lot of the time.
100%. Jason, obviously, while we still have 3 months left in this year, which is a lifetime in the ever-moving cycle of MMA, is there a particular fighter that has really stood out or surpassed your expectations this year?
Good question. it's hard not to have Leon Edwards pop into my head. Full disclosure, our producer of our show is Cody Merrow and Belal, and I sent them a text during the day that I just had a feeling Leon was going to catch him. And I knew Belal was going to be like, why are you sending me this text? You know the history with Leon Edwards and Belal with the eye poke. But no, I think I have to go there. I mean, I have a lot of respect for Leon Edwards as a fighter. And one of my favorite things is when guys break through and win a championship, whether it's Glover Teixeira. Mike Bisping is one of my favorite moments of all time when he broke through. So to me, seeing a guy like Leon Edwards break through and sort of get rewarded for the body of work, so many teams and professional sports in America, where, they don't win a championship. They don't get a chance to sort of taste that. And when you talk about a guy like Josh Emmett at 37 having an opportunity to fight for the belt, I'm a little sensitive to that. I like guys getting an opportunity to taste that. So to me, Leon Edwards has to be the guy. I'm sure if I had some time to really think about it, I could come up with some other names that are maybe more deserving.
I will say, while we're on it, you and Alex have something in common, because we did a podcast with Eric Nixick the morning before, and Eric and Alex actually he said, I don't know why, I just got a feeling. I think Leon gets it done. So you guys have got something in common.
I just felt it heading into fight week. It was crazy. Everything said Kamaru should win, but yeah, I just felt it.
Including the first 4 rounds in 4 minutes, everything said he should win. And so, and sometimes it is just sort of, I wasn't saying it. Other than really believing in Leon striking and it was more. Mighty Mouse did an interview, I believe it was on Helwani's podcast, and he just talked about, like, at some point you're going to get caught. You win 15 straight, you're just going to get caught. And one thing I said about even the leg kick, I mean, everything has to go right for that to land perfectly and be laying on the canvas with your eyes open. So, but anyway, it just and Belal, obviously, chasing gold, that was not the best result in his mind.
Yeah, for sure. So, Jason, stepping away from MMA for a second, I know you've got your business as well, Slimstone in the USA. Can you give us a bit of background? We're all over it. Can you give us a bit of background with your business, how long you've been involved with it, and sort of where your passion for it originated from?
So I've lived in South Florida about 17 years. I was in the financial industry before, and my business partner is from South Africa, and he presented this product to us. It's I've been working all day. I won't do too much, but it's a very thin stone product. It's real stone. I've been doing it about 2 years. It's very much a design and construction oriented product. We do a lot of commercial work, a lot of residential work, but totally different than anything I've done before. I like doing it a lot. And when I started doing Remember the Show, it was sort of when I was starting this business. And so I had a lot more time for Remember the Show now than I do 2 years in. And the first 2-3 years in a business, I'm making mistakes every day. And it's so much trial and error. And I'm 44 years old. And one thing I've said ad nauseum is just young people are really important for old people who are running businesses to sort of learn and grow and being open-minded to sort of changing and evolving. And there are so many skills that as a 44-year-old, I don't have electronically or social media. Those things I'm sure come a lot easier to you guys. So, but no, I love the business. It's interesting. I'm also John and I are actually, I don't know if do you guys watch American sports at all?
Yeah.
He does. I don't personally. But
I do.
Well, people are all over the map, and we were supposed to have Clay Guida on our show last night. He didn't have an internet connection. We were going to talk about the National Football League with him, and I said, "Bilal, you got to be careful. Joe Rogan probably knows Aaron Rodgers and probably couldn't name another NFL player. Not everyone is involved in that stuff. I mean, everyone has their own thing. But the reason I asked, John and I are actually doing this new NFL picks show every week called Anik Squared, which we just started. So, but you can be sure you guys are very nice men. We will not be very kind to each other. So we opened the last show, and I did my open, and then I'm like, "What's up, kid?" So I said to John, and so when it's over, he's like, "When have you ever called me kid?" He's like, "You don't call me kid." You know what I mean? Like, he wants me to be myself. And it's like, but it is a very interesting thing because I get a little, I don't want to say nervous. Hopefully but when I'm doing something with him, it's like, he is just, I mean, I got to be ready to go.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Jason, you couldn't have segued it any better for me, because that was actually my next question. And we don't want to keep you too long, because I know you've probably got things to do. You come home from work and family time, so we won't keep you too long. But the last question from us, man, was exactly that. I saw you and John recently start up Anik Squared. Follow him on YouTube, on Instagram. Check him out, guys, because giving out the best NFL insights in the game. And I'm a big Cheesehead fan. I met Aaron Rodgers when I was 13.
Love it.
I'm 25. I got his signature, and he came to Australia. I haven't got the jersey. I haven't got the jersey.
I love it. I love it.
Let's go.
Good for you.
But yeah, big Cheesehead fan, man. But I want to get your being obviously you and John starting the podcast together. Which team you got winning the Super Bowl this year?
A lot of people like the Packers more than I do, by the way, this year. And to tell you, I believe it or not, on our show, I picked the Vikings to represent the NFC, and John was laughing at me. But no, I have the Chargers winning the Super Bowl, but I bet on the Ravens as well, and to win the Super Bowl. To me, the Bills, and especially you're asking me today after watching what the Buffalo Bills did last night. And so if you're asking me today, it's like you're putting a gun to my head. I'm picking the Buffalo Bills today. But I like, the Vikings, I played them 39-1. Like, that's a little more interesting to me. But I think the Los Angeles Chargers are due. What I said on my podcast, you had and Alex, forgive me if this is not
that's all right. No, go for it. Football.
In Los Angeles, California, you had the baseball team, the Los Angeles Dodgers, the basketball, Los Angeles Lakers win it, the LA Rams won it last year. So I think the LA Chargers, I think it's their time. They have a real talented roster. But I'm a New England Patriots fan. I think they're going to have a terrible year, but I'd love to see Aaron Rodgers get another one. I like the greats to achieve greatness. No, seriously. I mean, when Peyton Manning won his second, even though he didn't play great, I was thrilled he got that second ring. So I got a question for you guys. I
like that because I actually when he came,
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say my story with Aaron was a funny one because when I met him, I was an Eagles fan and I had a Donovan McNabb shirt on, and he came to Australia because our real estate agent used to play for the Packers. He was a punter and went to Cal U and all that, and he came out here and he called my dad one night and he goes, "Hey, Aaron's down at the local rugby club. Do you want to come down and meet him?" At 9 o'clock at night, I got out of bed, put my Donovan McNabb shirt on, and I got to the club, and he goes, "What's this jersey you're wearing?" And I was like, "I'm sorry, it's the only one I had. I'm an Eagles fan." And he goes, "Not anymore, you're not." And I went, "No, I'm not anymore. I'm an Aaron Rodgers fan."
Absolutely. I love it. And now you're calling yourself a cheesehead, which is what you should. See, I love that. And it's interesting because my business partner from South Africa, he gets down here to South Florida with no experience, but he likes sports. I can tell if he watched American football. And Alex, if Josh would get you into it, you probably love it. But he's down here and he doesn't really have a team. And so, the natural thing is to follow the Dolphins because you're down here. And I'm like, bro, the Patriots, we'll take anyone who wants, any international folks that want to root for the Patriots, you're more than welcome. Believe me.
100%.
Cool. So what was the question you had for us, Jason?
Yeah, so your nicknames are the local Lebbo. Did I pronounce that right? Or the local
Lebbo. So I'm
local
Lebbo.
Yeah. Okay. And the Jitsu Jew.
Yeah.
And that's you, Alex.
Yeah, that's me. So a bit behind that is so I first got into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu when I was 17. And when I first made my social media account, I was like, oh, I need a really, really good name. I was like, I got to think of it. And someone was like, why don't you just do the Jitsu Jew? I was like, that works. So I did that.
Absolutely.
I did that. And then I have the little tagline of chokes and jokes. And hopefully if I get a pro fight in the future, I can come out, announce to the Jitsu Jew.
I love it. And the local Lebbo?
That was more so. Cool too. That was more so because we're in Australia. There's a lot of Lebanese people from the Middle East and stuff, but where I live on the Gold Coast, there's not many. There's like hardly at all. They're all in Sydney and Melbourne and that sort of stuff. Where we live in Queensland, and so I'm just the local. I'm the only one around the local area that's actually Lebanese. But yeah, we don't know. We don't use it.
Yeah, I love it. Well, so one story I just want to share for your audience makes sense. So I believe it was in Jacksonville. So I'm doing laundry in the laundry room, and there's another guy doing laundry there. I didn't recognize him, but I look like John. So when I go on the road to sometimes these UFC events, even though I have long hair, people recognize me from time to time. So I was doing laundry, and this dude recognized me. I didn't recognize him. It ended up being Ash, Alexander Volkanovski's manager, right? So I didn't know him, and so I spent 30 minutes with him in the laundry room. He's doing Volk's laundry. I'm doing John's laundry. And we're just rapping or whatever. So for me, but that's what it is about the MMA community. It's like everyone you meet, you like. It's unbelievable how, and when you really meet someone like I did there, it just transcends everything. So now Alexander Volkanovski is the guy I root for more than anyone. I'm a fan of Max Holloway, but you'll find me Team Volk, because I met his manager and there's that connection now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and he's actually coming to Brisbane next weekend, I think, for like a signing of an opening day of the big store down here is MMA Fight Store, and they sell all the gear and all the pads and all that sort of stuff. So he's actually coming down here, so we're going to go see if we can see him and catch up with him maybe. Yeah,
good stuff, boys.
But Jace, look, man, we appreciate you coming on. It's been really, really fun having you on, man. You're a really nice guy. We appreciate your time immensely. We'd love to have you on again in the future.
I appreciate it. Well, it's great to meet you both, and you can be sure, the best way to get the UFC's lead play-by-play broadcaster on your podcast, I got a very close connection there. So hopefully, maybe we'll do something where we both come on for a few minutes. But great meeting you both. I'm fans. I'll be following you. Good luck. You're young. Keep doing your thing.
Definitely, man. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, guys. Have a good one. Later.